Good morning, my brothers and sisters. Welcome to Be With Me, 7 Minutes of Biblical Wonder. This is the first episode, and I can't tell you how happy I am that you are listening today, probably this morning. I trust that this might mean everything to a few of you, and it might mean something to all of you, and which will you be? So keep on listening. Now, you're probably wondering, why should I listen to this podcast? And that's where I'm heading, and I'm going to answer that question, is why you should listen. But before we get there, you'll kind of want to think about what kind of a knucklehead starts a podcast in the middle of a New Testament gospel, Luke chapter 7. What kind of a knucklehead starts with something that's not even designed as a podcast and then makes it a podcast? What kind of a knucklehead then publishes and posts 200 episodes in reverse order and then now finally gives you episode number 1? So let me just ask in a big way, what is Be With Me? And the blurb says that Be With Me is a daily 7-minute chronological walk through the New Testament hosted by Michael Smith. That's me. It is for everyone who is curious about what Jesus actually said and did in the Gospels. Most episodes will leave you with at least one good thought to chew on for the rest of the day. We start with the Bible and hopefully end in awe. Ironically, this episode doesn't start with the Bible. We are walking through the chronological events of Jesus' life and then thoughtfully consider them. And it's meant to spur the devotional life of the Christian and the not yet Christian. And then we occasionally venture into the Old Testament when it helps our understanding of the New Testament events. So that is what Be With Me is. Essentially, it is what I discover on that day, what I learn on that day, what I see on that day, and little spiritual slices. My pastor called it spiritual snacks that happen on that day, and you guys get to be riding shotgun to that process. So who is this guy? Well, the blurb says something about that too. Be With Me is hosted by Michael Smith, who has absolutely no special qualifications to do a podcast. He's not a pastor. He's not been to seminary. He does not lead a megachurch. He is not a professional, and he has no more credentials than you. So basically what I'm trying to say here is that Michael Smith is a nobody, and I have spent 200 episodes of trying to be invisible. I realize that I am totally out of my league here in addressing and talking to and approaching a holy God. But I'm no more out of my league at it than you are. And in a sense, then, we are in this together. And the only thing that holds me together about this is that if he does not give us access to who he is, this whole process would be futile. So the essence of Be With Me is that we have a God that wants to be known. He wants to be found. He wants to be treasured. And yes, I am completely unqualified, absent this desire of his to be known. I think understanding how this podcast came to be will help answer some of these questions. In the sense, the study of the development of this podcast is the story of the development of the character of this podcast. So when COVID hit, my pastor asked those of us that lead little fellowship groups to help solve this question: how can we fellowship when we could not gather together? So this voice recorder was used as trying to enhance our abilities to connect in times when we couldn't physically connect with each other. So if you listen to the early podcasts in the single and the teen digits, you'll see that they're to a very specific group on a specific day and addressing a specific quarantine character to them. And then as time goes on, more towards the hundreds and the 200s, that becomes less of an issue. Hopefully, the Bible and the Lord stands out throughout all of those episodes, however. And then what happened is that this podcast and those dictations began to be recognized as advantageous by certain individuals and certain people. And then people said, hey, you should make a podcast out of what was not designed as a podcast. So that's why if you listen to some of the early ones, you'll find some of them are just a little bit rough, but that's probably part of the charms of this. So the problems of this podcast are also, in a sense, part of the charm of the podcast. This has a very low production value. It's not slick. I don't fix my flubs. It's a real person in a real time with a real God wrestling it out. As far as the actual production, there's no staff. It's me. It's my Bible. It's my iPhone and a blank sheet of paper. And I go sit on my deck usually if the weather's nice. I've seen every sunrise for the last 6 months, and it's just me and the Lord, and we see what happens. So I'm going to save the actual answering of the question, why should I listen, for tomorrow, episode number 2, but I want to leave you with this for today. Jonathan Edwards was an early 1800s famous Christian guy, and when he discovered a spiritual thought, he would write it on a piece of paper and he would pin it to his shirt or to his coat, and he would try to remember it and have that thought prominent not only in his mind, but prominent on his clothing. So same thing here, as I try to leave each day, usually, with some sort of a spiritual thought. So here's my thought for today. You may not like this particular episode. You may not like what we discover in the Bible on a particular day. But the idea is, come back tomorrow. This is the mud on the wall theory. Throw a little mud on the wall, and pretty soon the wall gets covered by mud. So I'm going to give you, usually, a spiritual snack every day. And here's the snack for today. I want you to come back tomorrow. I'll see you then.